Hi, I'm Maker Kevin Myers. Welcome back to the 24/7 News Show. It is August 1st, 2019, and we are going to be talking about the biggest television event of the summer season, the season finale of The Bachelorette. Really? No, we're kidding. We're going to talk about the Democratic debates. But seriously, if you watched The Bachelorette instead of the Democratic debate, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. I'm kidding, sort of. But seriously, no matter what your political affiliation is, watch the debates, see for yourself what the candidates are saying, and decide for yourself whether you agree or disagree with them. Don't just hear it through a conservative commentator / professional nut job like Sean Hannity. Because you're not going to get the truth. You're not going to hear their real platform. But besides that, unfortunately, we're recording this on August 31st in the middle of the day. It's noon right now. So we're not going to be able to cover the second night of debates, just the first night. And let's get right into it. So should I list all the candidates that were on the debate stage tonight? My producer says I should not. So I'm going to do it anyway. So John Hickenlooper, I only remember that because his name sounds funny. Hickenlooper and Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg. I only remember that because he's the only one I liked last night. Yeah, so there were 10 candidates on the stage. It's too many, frankly. My evil plan, if I get in Jeff Zucker's headspace, I would have there be 4 nights of debate, Monday through Thursday, because people they're out eating dinner on Friday nights. You can't put a major television event as important as the Democratic debates on Friday nights. You do 4 nights, and then you have 5 candidates each night. So there's 20 candidates that CNN decided were television worthy. Not sure how they came up with that, because there was some crazies, but yeah, so 4 nights, 5 candidates each night. Then we would actually get some decent amount of airtime for each candidate instead of these 15-second sound bites like they were limited to by the moderators. It was kind of a mess, but to CNN's credit, I feel like they did do a little bit of a better job than NBC with trying to give all the candidates enough equal airtime. However, there's just too many candidates on the stage at this point. They either need to eliminate some of the more fringe candidates, like why did you let Marianne Williams on the stage again after last time, which was when she said that Donald Trump didn't win by having a plan, so we shouldn't have a plan, which is like, no, Donald Trump is not what we should aspire to be as Democrats. But so let's just get right into policy. So they started off with Medicare for all, healthcare in general. All were in favor of Medicare for all, however, whether or not to eliminate private insurance was definitely a point of contention between the candidates. With Bernie Sanders, or he's kind of like a grandpa at this point. It's like, you got racist grandma, and then you got socialist grandpa. And unfortunately, they got divorced. The political tension in the household was just too much. They had to do what was right for the kids. So. But seriously though, so it was him, Elizabeth Warren, and a couple other candidates in favor of Medicare for all with no private insurance, because admittedly the insurance companies do have some scummy practices. But on the other hand, there is the very valid point that number 1, this is too liberal. We will not get elected. We will end up re-electing Trump if we do this. And number 2, that eliminating people's private insurance is probably going to be a mess. So personally, I think that there should be, like the majority of the candidates support a dual-tier healthcare system with a public option for those who cannot afford the more expensive private option. Now, yes, that would reinforce income inequality, but we're already reinforcing income inequality anyway with not having any sort of public healthcare system to support those who cannot afford a private healthcare system, and it's through your employers. If you're unemployed, you don't have healthcare, which is silly. So I would say it's having a safety net is better than not having a safety net. And it still incentivizes people to work hard in their daily lives, but without being medieval and brutal, like work or die. So yeah, besides that was really the biggest point of contention. And what become a theme throughout the night is, if we're too liberal, we're going to end up getting Trump reelected. This was reiterated by numerous of the more moderate candidates on the stage. Now, this would come up again when it came to immigration. Now, they were all on board, said as soon as possible, we will end the practice of separating children from their parents at the border. It is abhorrent. It is disgusting. It should never happen in this country. That was what they all basically said. And good, but and they would also close the essentially concentration camps, because whether you're willing to admit it or not, it is a people of specific race or specific ethnic background, specific point of origin, if you will, are concentrated in a camp-like environment. You don't need gas chambers for it to be, by definition, a concentration camp. And no, Laura Ingraham, they're not summer camps. So, yeah. But the issue was whether or not to decriminalize crossing the border illegally. Now, before the Fox News hosts go crazy and say that this will allow people to smuggle drugs over the border, because that's coming, I'm sure, it will not. It simply means that you would be tried in civil court as opposed to criminal court for crossing the border illegally, which makes it a more minor offense. Now, again, this was a point of contention because people are worried to be too liberal, get Trump reelected, and also that it would incentivize people to come over the border illegally in higher amounts. That and also the possibility that sort of ties these two issues of healthcare and immigration together, of providing public healthcare for undocumented immigrants. That's pretty much in a nutshell the immigration debate. So let's move on to climate change. And of climate change, again, we have this commonality, this common sort of theme of, if this is too aggressive, we're going to get Trump reelected. But in the era of, especially with climate change, we need something aggressive because, as some scientists have said, we have like about a decade before we reach the point of no return where we really need to start changing quickly. Some estimates say it's more like 2050 is the point of no return, but the point is we have less than 100 years to figure this out. So we need some aggressive policies. And climate change is real, whether you are willing to admit it or not. This is not up for debate anymore. It requires willful ignorance not to see it. There are satellite photos of the polar ice caps melting. If you don't think it's real, you are in with the flat earthers and the people who think the moon landings were fake, and the people who think that the government is putting, some sort of mind control drugs in the whole chemtrails thing with airplanes, which is also stupid. It's water vapor, idiots. Anyway, so yeah, climate change is real, but the difference is how aggressive the plan to support. Some were in favor of something like the Green New Deal, which Elizabeth Warren actually supported before it flopped. But yeah, so that was climate change. Then gun control, another point of they were all agreed, universal background checks on a federal level. That's important, just considering, how I'm a student, I'd like to not be shot in the middle of algebra. I feel like that's a reasonable ask of the president, which is, some baseline gun control, because we have none of that in the United States. And you know what? It's the reason why we have one of the highest, gun, murder rates of any developed nation, because, the other ones like the UK and Australia have actual gun control. In Australia, where they passed an assault rifle ban and numerous other restrictions on gun rights. And they haven't had a mass shooting since those bills were passed. So, and that's like around 20 years. It's not like last week they did that. So that's pretty impressive, and it obviously works. And another issue that actually came up, which is interesting, and I already knew this was true, but it's important, was that the NRA had lobbied in the 90s for the Dickey Amendment, which essentially, or not essentially, what it did is prevented the CDC, or the Center for Disease Control, from being able to study what kind of effect gun control could have on the population if it were a good idea. Essentially, they prevented any sort of debate about whether or not we should do it. And the NRA is a disgusting organization, and so all the, dirt that was lobbed at it during the debate was more than justified, considering they were literally supporting the murder of children, adults, low-income people. Yes, because they are a lobbying group for the gun manufacturers. That's what they are. They're not interested in you, the one responsible rifle owner who just shoots deer in the woods. I'm being sarcastic. That's also wrong, but they're not into it for the individual. They're into it for the corporations. It's like, the lobbies we had for, the tobacco companies. That's what the NRA is. They're interested in protecting the product, not finding a rational solution that will leave both sides happy and actually, reduce our murder rate, which would be fantastic. And those are pretty much all the major points of the debate. So, yeah. I think that was everything. I didn't watch the entire thing. It was 3 hours. CNN. God help us, because the NBC debate I already thought was 2 hours too many. For reference, it was 2 hours long, and 3 hours, it's too long. And CNN, of course, dragged it out as long as possible. The national anthem, which is fine. Then the color guard, really. And then every candidate shaking every other candidate's hand, which is like an Episcopalian church during peace be with you. And yeah. So that was the Democratic debate. Thanks for watching this episode of 24/7 News Show. Like, dislike, comment below. Again, just don't be racist. That's all I ask. I'm completely fine with a Republican being down there like all the Democrats are wrong. Just, if it's misinformation, we're going to correct you. And if it's hateful, we're going to block you. And we will report you to YouTube, so we have the power, theoretically. YouTube has a tendency to do nothing about this, but if you say something racist in our comments section, we will report it to YouTube, and potentially your account will end up being blocked. You won't be able to comment on any YouTube videos, not just ours, in the future. So, just don't be racist. That's all I ask. Rational debates below. Thanks for watching.